guys, hi, hello, how's it going? How y'all doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing another ranking by brand in my collection. As you guys know, this has been a journey. I've been trying to go through all the brands in my collection and do not only a best and most shade in each palette, but also a ranking by brand. And these ones typically take me a little bit longer to do because, God, it's just so hard. It's just so hard to rank all the palettes that I have in my collection from certain brands. It's just hard. So today we're going to be ranking by brand Melt Cosmetics. And I have 13 palettes, well, 12 palettes in my collection. One that was sitting in my declutter bin, so I bet you can't guess which one is number 13. And I decided to bring it in. I don't always do that, but I decided to bring it in because I go back and forth with, do I want it? Do I not want it? That kind of thing. I just need these friendly reminders that it's just not great, in my humble opinion, this palette. So I did decide to bring that one into this. But there are 13 palettes that we are going to be ranking by Melt Cosmetics today. I by no means have all of the Melt Cosmetics palettes. I was a little bit, I think, late to the game in terms of Melt Cosmetics. So there's that. But that is the brand that we'll be ranking today, and I hope that you're here for it. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care, and ultimately, this is my self-care. This that we do here, talking about makeup, touching makeup, all those things really soothe my soul, and if they soothe your soul as well, I think that you've found your girl. I think that you've hopefully found a happy place, and hopefully at the end of the video, you'll want to subscribe before you go. I would really love to have you stick around, be welcomed into my YouTube fam. And I mean, if I'm not your total cup of tea, that's totally fine with me. But I hope that you enjoy your time here while you're here. That said, thank you guys so much for joining me today. And let's just journey on into this ranking of my Melt Cosmetics palettes in my collection. This has been like extremely hard for me. I think that some of the palettes that I like really a lot are down towards the end due to like just sheerly performance issues, and some of the more boring palettes, in my humble opinion, are towards the top. That said, I think that I stand behind this ranking. So we always start with the last one in the list. I'll pause, let me just look at them real quick and make sure that I really do think that these are the way they should be. I think that they are in the order in which I would say I would rank them. Who knows? We might decide differently on the fly. So just to put it in perspective for you, when I rank my palettes, I am going off of, number one, I've used every single one of these palettes. They are in my palette roulette series. I will have that listed or linked up in the cards for you so that you can go there. Most of my palettes in my palette roulette series, it's very identifiable which video you're looking for if you want to see, like, you know, what I have to say in my wholehearted review on these palettes. So I'm going off of that knowledge. I'm also going off of like color story and performance. And then of course your tastes change throughout your years, right? So there's that. I think that's what makes it the hardest is in terms of ranking, is because your tastes change. Like what you like today may not be something that you are going to like tomorrow. So ultimately, I think like the ones at the bottom are sheerly due to, the one at the very bottom is sheerly due to performance. And then from there, it's about not only performance, but color story. I mean, you guys know how rankings work, so I'm not going to go into it wholeheartedly, but my number 13 palette is my only Melt Cosmetics palette that is sitting in my declutter bins, and that is Millennial Pinks. You know, I really wanted to love this palette because not only is the packaging beautiful, it's kind of got these like raised lumpy bumpies on them. Millennial Pinks is in this beautiful like pink metal raised like lettering, and it is, I mean, truly a beautiful color story. This is a beautiful color story and really unique to my collection, with some of these like dark dusty blues and really pretty rosy tones, and then really kind of pale beigey pinks. Really pretty palette. But at the end of the day, I think that this palette performed the absolute worst for me. And, you know, looking at the shades, it does look like quite a few of them have hard pan on them. And I'm kind of just wondering, if I pulled it back out and tried it again, what I would feel like. But I have bashed on this palette for years now, and I would feel some sort of way if I pulled it back in and decided that I was going to try it again and see how I felt about it. I just didn't love the quality of the shadows. I felt like even though there was, you know, the appearance of quite a bit of variety, it really did not produce a variety of looks from it. I think that most of these pinks look the exact same on the eye. I feel like I was packing things on and blending them away as I was blending them out on my eyes. So this one definitely came last in the running for me, just because of my experience with trying to do anything with this palette. And I pride myself on the fact that I can usually make just about anything work for me, and I just couldn't with this palette. It was a struggle bus the whole time. So that one came in at number 12, or number 13. For number 12, for me, it breaks my heart to do this, but it would have to be the Melt Bailey Syrian Fatally Yours. And I think ultimately it's not because of color story, because I love this color story. For me, it was mostly because a lot of these shadows really, I felt like, oxidized on my eyes and appeared a lot darker than what they are in this palette. Even this like really light tone kind of like tangerine shade was more orange than I anticipated it would be, and therefore kind of muted together with like these other two shades next to it. Like these two shades looked exactly the same on the eyes. These two shades looked exactly the same on the eyes. And this one, even though it was also a lot lighter, actually was kind of competing with the darker blue in this palette on my eye space for which one could have been the darker shade. I love the color story of this palette, and immediately knew I was going to pick it up when I heard that they were collabing with Bailey. But this just is not my favorite palette, because I feel like of all the melt palettes that I have in my collection, this Fatally Yours one was the most disappointing. And maybe that's because I had the highest hopes for it. I don't know, but it would be number 12. Number 11 also pains me because it is an icon in the space, but it is going to be the Melt Muerte palette. Now, I love this palette. Y'all know that this will never leave my collection. And again, the color story is just iconic and really unique to anybody's like makeup collection if they have this. We don't see palettes with this kind of color story ever. And I love that we've got like these teals and these blues and these reds in here. And this was like such a staple part of my collection for a very long time for these deep dark mattes. But ultimately, I just don't feel like it performs very well. And I think that a lot of that is because of the deep dark colors of it. This blue, or this like tealy green in here, is much better than the one that is in the Fatally Yours palette. And I do feel like these do not oxidize necessarily at all, let alone as bad as the ones in the Fatally Yours. I feel like you can get a really light eye look from this, even as deep as this is. But ultimately, it comes down to performance for this. I just don't feel like it performs as well as some of the other melt palettes that I have in my collection. And this shadow is just, it might as well be a black, because once you put it on your eyes, that is what it looks like. And for it to have this like glittery, like blue, almost black shade. And then this also like navy, almost black shade. I felt like it was a little bit redundant in the palette. Again, it's just really dark, but ultimately with this one, it comes down to performance. In addition to the fact that there are 3 shimmers in this palette. This one here is a shimmer. That blue one that I was just showing you is also a shimmer. And then this one here is a shimmer, and they are so dense on the eye. They just exacerbate texture, and it's not something that somebody my age should be wearing on their eyes for sure. Anything that exacerbates texture, and I don't have like a lot of texture on my eyes, but I do have aging eyes, so all of the texture that could possibly be there for somebody that has like a little bit of creepiness on the end, like that is just in the forefront of my eye look when I'm using that palette. So I will never get rid of this palette. It will also go into probably my memory drawer at the end of its time in my collection. I can't see myself decluttering it ever, but also it would come in at number 11 in my Melt collection just because it's just not as fantastic as I wish it was. Number 10 would have to be the Melt Electric palette. Now this one has a very different formula, I feel like, than the other Melt palettes that I have in my collection, in that it's not as fickle as most of Melt collection palettes formulations are. It blended really, really easy. I think from a performance aspect, it probably performed better in terms of blendability than any of my Melt palettes. But I also feel like with Melt, there are some things that you're looking to get, right? You're looking to get pigmentation. You're also maybe looking for a little bit of that fickleness because you know that the shadow is going to be amazing. This one definitely, I didn't get the pigmentation right away. I had to pack on the shadows over and over and over again to get the kind of like pigmentation that I wanted from them. This red really didn't showcase as a red on my eye look, which was disheartening. This blue was actually quite great. And this blue right here, which is very similar to the one I just swatched for you, Muerte, but is so much softer, so much more blue, so much more sparkly. Like there are some good qualities about this palette, but I would say just from the perspective of like formulation, pigmentation, and color story, this one probably would not be my first pick to pick up. I would honestly probably pull Muerte in before I'd pull this one in because I feel like its colors are a little bit more strong. But from a formulation perspective, I do think that this one has a better formulation than Muerte, so that's why it's coming ahead of Muerte. But I just don't feel like this holds the same kind of iconic Melt esteem in my heart as the other palettes that are in my collection. And from a color story perspective, I think that, I think that it has a lot going for it, but I also think it's slightly disjointed. Like this green doesn't really go, I guess it goes with these two colors here, but it's a shimmer, and this is also a shimmer. This palette also has more shimmers in it than any of my other Melt Cosmetics palettes in it do. I don't really love this shimmer. This shimmer's pretty but really light. The red, like I said, doesn't really showcase as a red. I just feel like from a formulation standpoint, as I said, I think that it is probably a little bit more user friendly for like the beginner than a lot of my other Melt Cosmetics palettes, but there's just some kind of something that I want from Melt, and this palette just doesn't do it for me. Number 9, I think I'm going to go with this one. This is the Melt Cosmetics Halloween Town Nightmare Before Christmas palette, and I do have both of them. This one is the Oogie Boogie one, or Halloween Town, as I said. This is the color story of this one, and I do like this color story. So this one definitely doesn't have a whole lot to do. It's not in this place because of the color story. I guess I put it here because I do feel like in terms of quality, Like, I felt like this one produced some really beautiful eye looks, but this really dark purple, its formula isn't superb. This shimmer here and this shimmer here are more like just toppers. They don't really do a whole lot for the eye look, even though like in swatches, they look beautiful. They're just not, there's just not a lot to them, although this blue one I do like a lot better than the purple one at top. I feel like these two both should not have been shimmers, because, you know, an orange and a yellow shimmer don't really go with these colors up top. Like the color story to me is just a little bit disjointed with this palette. And this is the one that I purchased, and I got the other one as a gift from a friend. And I think I said when I was reviewing these that had I known that Melt was going to come out with this one and then 3 weeks later come out with the other one, I probably would have waited and bought the other one, because the other palette definitely suits my preferences in terms of color stories go. I think that this is a beautiful palette and I do like it. And the shimmers in this palette feel a lot different than other shimmers before it, and then also than some shimmers like after it, if I'm honest with you, in that they are really very silky and smooth and really nice to the touch. I don't think that this palette performs horribly, but I think it has like a formula that is along the same lines as the one in the Electrip, that it's not super bad. It's just not the same kind of formula that I'm expecting from a Milk Cosmetics palette, which is why I put it into the space that I put it. However, I do love this color story, and again, I do love playing with this palette. It's just probably, of the palettes that I have from Milk Cosmetics, not going to be the first one that I pick up to play with. I feel like I have other Milk Cosmetics palettes in my collection with a very similar color story that I would pick up first for those colors. So I guess that's why it ranks where it's at. For number 8, I am putting in the Melt Vita palette. So, I mean, it comes in at a couple more, you know, ranking numbers higher than its counterpart Muerte, but I love these palettes, and again, I will not get rid of them, but this is about the formulation. This is a very old Milk Cosmetics palette, but I will tell you, even when I first got it, when it was brand new out on the market, when it was brand new in my collection, it performed just about the same as it performs now. It's one thing that I can say about my Milk Cosmetics palettes. I don't feel like any of them has lacked in quality over the years. It's just a very fickle formula. I don't feel like the red populates as a red. I think it's more of like an orange pink, which is what it is. But I've said for a very long time, I love reds and oranges and stuff on my eyes, so I do love using it. I just wish it was a little bit more poppy and a little bit more red. I do love the color story in this palette. I feel like there's a lot of variety in this palette that you can get. I don't love the shimmers in this palette, this green one being one and this kind of like orangey red being the other. I don't feel like they go with everything that's in this palette to be used. And in addition to that, like with the Muerte palette, they are very dense and cause a lot of exacerbation of texture on your eyes if you have textured eyes. So they're just a little bit heavier than I love my shimmers these days, but I do love the color story of this palette. It's a great fall palette in my humble opinion. I just, I feel like these two shadows look very similar. These ones look very similar. These two actually look very similar. And these two actually also look very similar. There's just a lot of redundancy in this palette. Also a lot of variety, because you can get like a good color story going on your eyes for this. And it really does fall right into my color story wheelhouse for what I like on my eyes. I just, from a performance perspective, yes, it's got the pigmentation, but it's so fickle to use this palette. Like you really have to take your time with it. You really have to blend and blend and blend. Your arms really do have to fall off when utilizing this palette in terms of blending, because otherwise it just comes out a real hot mess. So that said, this one would definitely come in at number 8. Number 7 is going to be my Melt Smoke Sessions palette. This one is more about the color story, which sounds horrible because green is my favorite color, but gold is not. And this has a lot of gold in it. And I know where they were going with this gold. They were trying to be like antique bronzy gold, you know, so it kind of came out a little bit more green, a little bit more patinaed. I see where they were going with this. But I don't really, when I pull out this palette, I don't really use these 4 shades here. I use mostly these 4 shades here. The shimmers in this palette are stunning. I mean, they really are beautiful. This one, a beautiful like olivey green. I mean, this gold is crazy good. This green, it's so pretty. I love green. Green is my favorite color. But again, those shimmers in that palette are just a little bit more heavy than I like on my eyes because of the exacerbation of texture. If you go in really lightly, it's not a problem. But also, like, truly, it's the color story in this one more than it is anything else, because half of the palette I don't really love to use. Which is funny because one of the palettes that came above it has a lot of gold in it, but I think it's more like yellow than it is gold. Let me know if you are one of those people also that's like, yellow is okay, gold is not. Some people just don't understand me. The next one would have to be my initial Gemini palette. I really do like this palette. I mean, we are in a place where I only have 13 palettes in this collection. Most of them I really, really like, you know, and this is number 6. So number 6 isn't, I mean, it's not top 5, but it's barely not top 5. I put this here because even though green is my favorite color, there's only really 4 greens in this palette, and the rest of it is really browns and kind of mustardy tones, and I love browns and mustardy tones. But when somebody really looked at the Gemini palette and they were like, oh, it's a green palette, this really isn't a green palette. Do I think that this color story is beautiful? Yes. Do I love this color story? Yes. Do I think that this formulation is great? Yes. I didn't get the Gemini palette when it first launched, so this actually is like the second or maybe even third iteration of the Gemini palette. It's got the new packaging that matches the Gemini 2 when the Gemini 2 came out, because that's when I purchased this palette, is when the Gemini 2 came out. I bought both of them at the same time. It was for a long time the palette that got away. So I'm glad I had the chance to purchase it, and I'm glad that I have it in my collection. I really do like it. I think it, you know, from a formulation standpoint, performs very well. I just think that a lot of the eye looks that you're going to get from this side of the palette are going to look very, very similar to each other. And there's only like really 1 or 2 eye looks from this side of the palette, and those are also going to look very similar to each other. So not a whole lot of variety, I guess, but I really do like this palette. I mean, this isn't a palette that I feel like exacerbates my texture, my crepiness in my eyes at all. It's a palette that I feel like is not as dark and deep as it appears. It is a palette that I feel like I could use just for like regular everyday eye looks. It's not got like golds. It's not got like, you know, bright greens. It's just a really pretty, basic, everyday, neutral type eyeshadow palette. It's not necessarily boring, but it's also not one that is going to like reach out and grab me, right? So I think that that is why it comes in at number 6. So now we're into top 5. Number 5 is going to be the palette that I just put into my deck of panning for No Pan Left Behind, and that is the 420 palette. This one is, I think when I say like this one isn't green enough and this one is too gold, and you know, this one doesn't have a formulation that works super hot, I feel like this palette perfects a lot of that. Like, I don't feel like it's green enough, if I'm honest with you, but it really wasn't boasted as a green palette, but I also think it's green enough that you can get a really beautiful, like multi-tonal green eye look out of it, which is not something that I think that you can do with like even the Gemini palette, because those greens are so similar in tone. This one, like, I don't feel like the greens are super similar in tone. I love that it's got yellows in it, but not really golds in it. This shimmer right here is a shimmer that is, I think, supposed to be like a gold shimmer, but it really looks yellow on my eyes, and I want that from a gold shimmer if I'm going to use a gold shimmer, either like a white gold shimmer or a yellow shimmer. It only has one shimmer in the palette, and that is that gold one, and I think, or that yellow one, and I think because it is the tone that it goes with just about any kind of combination of matte shadows that you are putting on your eye in terms of this palette. And this really is a palette that I would say is a palette that you could take with you and get everything that you need for your eye look out of. It's got some really light tones in it. It's got a really great poppy inner corner shades. It's got some deepening up shades. It's got some mid-tone shades. I think that it maybe lacks like a white, a really, really light color, but I think that you can get that from these lighter yellow and green here, and even this brown to some extent. So I do think that this could be not maybe the only palette that you have in your collection, but it would suffice in the same way. And I really love the performance of this palette. I think it blends really, really well. And it's just a perfect fall palette in my humble opinion. And I do love that this has a definite gradient of tone in it, so that every shadow in your eye looks like it's a different color, and there's not like all that redundancy that I feel like some of the other palettes ahead of it felt like it had. For number 4, I pulled, oh my gosh, I pulled the Melt Christmas Town palette. This is another Halloween Nightmare Before Christmas palette that they came out with, and this is the one that I got as a gift from a friend, and this is the color story of this one, and I just feel like this color story is a little bit more up my alley than Halloween Town, which is why it came in and ranked the way it did. And this deep dark burgundy red here and this red here kind of give me life. Like, they're the ultimate burgundy and red, like bright Christmas red, that I had always been hoping for from Melt Cosmetics, that I wasn't seeing from Melt Cosmetics in other palettes. This gold down here is more of a white gold, so it's not like an ugly like gold color, and it's got a really great texture to it, and it can be buffed out and to be a little bit more sheer. It has 4 shimmers in it. These 2 are shimmers, this one's a shimmer, and this one's a shimmer. And while I do think that we're missing a shimmer along these lines, because this one is a white gold, it actually performs really well with these colors up here. This is kind of like a gray toned, like almost baby powder blue, but it is also can function as a white in your eye look. And I feel like this one can be a color lover's dream, because it's got a little bit of color in it, but not so much that you have to be out of the box every single time you are using this palette. You can use this for inner corner, you can use it for brow bone. It's again one of those palettes that I think if this was the only one that you owned from Melt Cosmetics and you pulled it in to like a review series or like a palette a week or whatever, this could be the only palette that you use for a week, and I don't think that you'd ever get bored with the color story or the shadows that you're trying to put on your eyes. So this one came in at number 4. Again, I think it's just a beautiful color story and one that I truly, truly love. For number 3, I picked my Bad Size Zodiac palette. Now, I know a lot of people don't love these palettes and they didn't last very long for sure. I have the Earth palette because I am a Virgo and Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And this is what the color story looks like. So in addition to me being an Earth sign by being a Virgo, this is also like my grunge girl dreams. And that's what I could say about Melt Cosmetics, period, is of course it's, more on the like gothic grungy side of life. So It really does try to speak to the souls of the people like myself with its collaborations and its whatnots. But this reminded me a lot of the ABH Subculture palette in a smaller condensed version. And honestly, it gives me everything that I get from the ABH Subculture palette better. So I'm really happy to have it in my collection. I really like using it. I really like that there is, you know, it's subculture in a more condensed version of subculture. Like the shimmers in here are perfect for the shadows that are not shimmers in here and the matte shadows that are in here. I love the eye looks that I'm able to get out of this. I love that it's got like this really like fall toned aspect to it. And all of these colors are colors that I love to do on my own eyes. So this one had to come in at number 3. One that I went back and forth with on whether it needed to be number 2 or not was this one. I can't really tell you why I put this number 2 versus number 1, except for to say that it's all purple. But I think the reason why I put the number 1 palette in its place is because it is a pretty typical, could be everyday palette for me, whereas this one couldn't be an everyday palette for me. I feel like I would get really bored with this really quickly, but it is a palette that the shimmers in here are badass. I mean, that's all I can say. Like, they truly look out of this world, and I couldn't even imagine not having them in my collection. And they like are very like cool toned purple to some extent, and even though like some of them look very similar to each other, so like this one here and this one here kind of look similar on an eye look, they look completely different and have a little bit of a different like texture to them. Like this one's more of a topper, whereas this one I feel like it has really got some oomph to it. They look backlit. They are just stunning. So I can't imagine my collection without this palette in it, which is why I think I had to put this at number 2. And when I pull for purple shimmers, this is the first palette that I think of, honestly, to pull from. Now, do I every single time? No, but it is a palette that I'm like, oh, you know, I could use that purple out of that Smoke Sessions palette because it is crazy amazing. So, I mean, I guess then this comes in the place that it's in because of color story. Ultimately, it maybe should be further on down the line, but these shimmers are out of this world. So I couldn't put it further on down the line because I want to use that palette so much more than I want to use probably any other palette in my collection. Number 1, again, I think I put this here because of the ability to really, if it was the only palette in my collection, I know I would get an immense amount of use out of it, is the Gemini 2 palette. So I love this palette just because of the color story. Do I feel like this is the best palette hands down that I have in my collection? No, but and would I want this to be the only palette that I had in my collection? No. But I do feel like if this was the only palette in my collection, I could create mini an eye look out of this without getting bored with it. I like that it has like some pops of green in here because it soothes my heart, right? Green is my favorite color, but it also has these pinks and burgundies and reds in it that really complement those greens and don't pull away from those greens, and that those greens complement as well. So you can put them into the same eye looks without it looking like Christmas. I think ultimately what it comes down to is if this was the only Milk Cosmetics palette in my collection, I do think that I would be fine with it. The formulation is really good. It blends beautifully, which is crazy for Milk Cosmetics because most of the palettes from Melt are very fickle. It has a really light shade that is actually really light. It doesn't appear deep on my skin tone whatsoever. It doesn't really oxidize at all. It has some really deep tones in both green and red. It has beautiful, I mean, this shimmer is actually a really pretty kind of like coppery orange color, and this one is a really beautiful like green color. like army green color. I don't feel like it's got the shimmers that I like for it, like on the lighter end, but I do feel like this one, it can be just kind of patted on top of any of these colors and just bring a little bit of something else to the palette that is unexpected and that you can't see just from looking at it, right? You've really got to play with it a little bit, but it's just so pretty. And the shimmers are not built in a way that they are like dense and thick. They're not thick boys. Really very beautiful and aren't like super sparkly, but are very shiny and impactful without being chunky and flaky and horrible for crepey aging eyes, if that makes any sense. I really do love this palette. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is my like color story sweet spot, if you will. I do think that ultimately Vita is probably more my color story sweet spot with the oranges and the reds, because I like a lot of variety and some brightness in my eye looks, but I also really like a red orange eye, like peachy eyes, purple eyes. From a color story sweet spot perspective, I think this one falls more into my color story sweet spot. I think this one, the Christmas Town, probably falls more into my color story sweet spot. But this one is just an everyday kind of color story palette for me, and that's why I think it came in at number 1. It's a palette that is by Milk Cosmetics that I know that I could pull for every single day and have a really beautiful eye look from it and know that it's going to perform for me, unlike some of the other palettes from Milk Cosmetics that I have to spend hours on blending. I think that was one thing when I first started using Milk Cosmetics. I'm like, be in it for the long haul, because girl, your arm is going to fall off, because these are very fickle in formulation. You have to blend unless you want those harsh lines every single time. I don't feel that way with that palette. I don't feel that way with probably the top 3 palettes in this lineup, which is why they're the top 3, right? I guess I don't feel that way with this one either. Maybe this one should have came in number 4. But the rest of them, I feel like they're a little bit more fickle, a little bit more temperamental in how you have to utilize them, and or their formulations just are not to par. So that said, that is my Melt Cosmetics palette ranking. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what Melt Cosmetics palettes you have in your collection and how you would rank them. I also have a best and worst shade in the palette for Melt Cosmetics in my my best and worst shade in a palette series that is here on my channel. I'll link that in the cards as well so that you guys can hear more about these palettes. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you and yours are well. I hope that you are all safe and healthy and getting along as best that you can. I hope that you have a fantastic holiday for those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving. I know that, you know, for us in the US, it is a major foodie holiday. So I hope that, you know, if you're celebrating it, that you get everything that you want and then some. I hope that, you know, you're surrounded by family and friends and all the things. For those of you that it's just another day for you, please have an awesome day. I will be taking Friday off because I have my kids coming into town. So I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that y'all's holiday is great. And until Monday, bye friends.